He slid the divorce papers across the table with a smile and said, almost kindly, "Accept her or we're done." The pen rested beside his hand. Blue ink, already uncapped. From the outside, our life still looked intact. The house was quiet in the mornings. Coffee brewed at 6. Shoes lined up by the door. We waved to neighbors we didn't know well enough to invite inside. At dinners, we talked about neutral things. Work schedules, groceries, weather. People told us we seemed steady. He paid the bills on time. I folded laundry in neat stacks. We shared a calendar on the fridge with color-coded markers. His handwriting leaned right. Mine stayed straight. At night, he slept on his side, back toward me. One arm flung out like he was holding space for someone else. Sometimes I thought I imagined that part. Sometimes I didn't. Nothing dramatic happened. Nothing obvious. Just small absences that learned how to stay. The neglect didn't arrive all at once. Practiced. When I spoke, he checked his phone. When I asked a question, he answered later after the moment passed. When I planned things, he adjusted them without telling me. I learned to ask fewer questions because the answers made me feel foolish for asking. At family gatherings, he laughed louder at other people's stories. When I started one, he interrupted to clarify, then finished it himself. Everyone smiled. I smiled too. On our anniversary, he brought home flowers from the grocery store. No card. He said the line was long. I told myself he was tired. I told myself this was marriage. When I mentioned feeling lonely, he said, "You have everything you need." I wondered when need became the limit. There were moments I thought things might change. I went back to school at night. I worked during the day and studied after dinner. Textbooks spread across the table while he watched television. When I graduated, I waited for him to say something. He said, "Good. That should help." I believed that once I was better, more accomplished, more contained, I would matter again. Hope is convincing when it wears practical clothes. The first time I sensed someone else, he didn't deny it. He reframed it. "She understands me," he said, standing in the kitchen, arms crossed. "She doesn't make everything complicated." I didn't ask who she was. I didn't ask how long. I asked if he wanted to leave. He sighed. "No. I want us to be adults about it." That word stayed with me. Adults. As if my pain was a phase I should outgrow. He talked about arrangements, about honesty, about how people evolve. I listened, quietly, carefully, like someone learning instructions to a machine they didn't want to operate. The turning point I clung to came a month later. He suggested counseling, said it might help us transition. I took that word and reshaped it into something hopeful. Maybe this was him trying. Maybe this was repair. I showed up early to the sessions, sat straight, answered calmly. I chose my words like they mattered. After one session, the counselor said we were both articulate, that we communicated well. I almost laughed. For a few weeks, he was gentler. He made dinner once. He asked about my classes. He touched my shoulder in passing. I let myself believe this was the beginning of something better. It wasn't. The dinner where everything broke happened at his sister's house. Long table, too many candles, everyone talking at once. His family liked noise. It made them feel close. His mistress was there, introduced as a colleague. She sat across from him, laughing easily, touching his arm when she spoke. No one else seemed confused. At one point, his sister asked me how I felt about the situation. The room quieted just enough. He didn't look at me. He took a sip of wine. I said evenly, "I'm still married." Someone laughed. Unsure. Conversation resumed. I felt my body leave the table before I decided to stand. I drove home alone. The papers came 2 days later. He placed them between us like an offer, like leverage. He smiled because he thought he was being generous. "This way," he said, "we don't have to fight." I read the first page. The words were clean, legal, empty. "Accept her or we're done." I picked up the pen. I signed. No pause, no tremor. The sound of ink on paper was louder than I expected. He went pale. "No, wait," he said quickly. "You misunderstood. I looked up then. Really looked. I didn't, I said. He talked after that. Explained. Backtracked. Said he meant something else. That he thought I'd push back. That this was supposed to scare me into agreeing. I closed the folder. I'm not negotiating my place in my own life, I said. My voice surprised me. It was calm. Finished. I stood. Took my keys. Went to the bedroom and packed a small bag. Not dramatic. Just enough. He followed me. Asked where I was going. I'm leaving, I said. For now. For now, he repeated, hopeful. I didn't answer. The weeks after were quiet. I stayed with a friend. Then found a small apartment with good light and thin walls. I bought a table and one chair. I slept better than I had in years. He called. Texted. Apologized in pieces. Asked if we could talk. I didn't rush. When we met to finalize things, he looked tired. Smaller. I never thought you'd actually go through with it, he said. I nodded. I know. We divided things cleanly. No scenes. No speeches. I kept what I needed. I let the rest go. Now my mornings start later. I drink coffee at the window. I watch people pass without wondering what they think of me. My phone stays quiet. On purpose. I don't feel victorious. I feel steady. There's no one to convince anymore. No role to maintain. Just space. And breath. That's enough.